So hello and welcome to what is a bitterly cold morning here in the Yorkshire Dales National Park. I've driven for the last 2.5 hours, 100 miles to take a photograph of Scaleber Force Waterfall. It's good. There's a lot of water, there's a lot of waterfall. I'm very excited. I've seen this everywhere, I've never been, and I'm not going to be disappointed. There's a lot of water coming over the waterfall today, so let's get down there and start taking some long exposure photographs of Scaleber Force Waterfall here, just outside of Skipton in the Yorkshire Dales National Park. Sketch, sketch, slippery and death. Oh, I don't like this. So, here we are, Scaleber Force Waterfall. Climb down was about 30 seconds, but it was the steepest 30 seconds of my life. It took me about 10 of those seconds to go on my backside, so I've probably got a muddy bum. But yeah, that's a fairly impressive waterfall, and I'm absolutely thrilled. There's a lot of water coming over it. Oftentimes when I visit a waterfall, there's a small little trickle, but this one, yeah. I thought I'd maybe left it a little bit late in the year as well. I can see a lot of the greenery disappear, but it's all fallen on the ground and left this like nice autumnal orange tone to all of the banks and everything. I can see there's a big tree there, there's a fallen tree there, and there's maybe 1, 2, 3, there's maybe 4 levels of the cascade here. So I guess we could spend an hour and a half down here just taking some photos. Let's see what we can do. All right, so I've got a photograph composed now. It's a bit messy. At this low level, I would say it's a little bit messy, but I really wanted to get something just including the big fallen tree trunk as a foreground. So that's where I focused. I focused on the fallen tree. I've got a cluster of rocks as a foreground down there. I've actually focused on the tree trunk itself, and we've got the rest of the frame just leading up towards the big fall in the background. Now, the amount of water coming over this waterfall, I didn't think I would need shutter speeds that are all that long. I thought we could get away with 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. But having to use a polarizing filter just to take some of the shine off of the rocks and the trees and everything. And then because the sky is so bright above this, I've actually thrown a 3-stop soft edge graduated filter on the top of it just to bring that top part back a little tiny bit. It's quite dark down here, but I can see at the top it is still quite bright. So I'll just put a grad on just to bring the top part of this photograph back, which has left me with a shutter speed of, well, 13 seconds at f5.6. I didn't think we'd be going that long. So we'll go ahead, we'll take it. So using a 2-second timer, ND64 built into the camera. Here it is. So my next challenge is to attempt to climb up this first waterfall behind me. There seems to be a little ledge and there's some sort of stepping stones that people are obviously using to get up. But, well, I'm not the tallest person on the planet, and that gap looks sizable. But the plan is to get up past this waterfall and just get a little bit closer to the main fall and hopefully get a really nice, clean, crispy photograph without too much clutter in the way of the foreground. And I really want to do something with the big tree just off to the right-hand side of it. So I guess all that's left to do is scramble and scale and hopefully not slip. This will be fun. Well, it wasn't all that bad to get up, to be honest with you. It's a lot more impressive up here. The waterfall and everything's it's a lot cleaner. I think the tree trunk that I was taking a photograph of before, I think that really just maybe ended up as a distraction, because up here it looks like you can get a far nicer photograph of the waterfall than you can down there. So, next problem, I've now got to get down to get you to bring you up here. That it, I banged my knee. Ow. So I'm going to try and shield the sound of the waterfall with my hands here. It's really, really loud. So I've got the camera pressed up right against this cliff face here, just so we can get some sort of composition that I'm happy with. So we've got the waterfall, well, the little waterfall at the bottom right-hand side of this. There's some green mossy rocks and the big tree up the right-hand side as well. And then we've got the big waterfall coming in from the top right at the middle. just sort of snaking around to some smaller falls at the left. So the waterfall's kind of doing a bit of a zigzag crossing motion across this photograph. I'll bring the camera around here so I can show you the composition on the camera, and then we'll start figuring out some sort of settings. I think we're going to need a polarizer for this. So all the rocks are really sort of wet and the greenery really needs popping off, mostly because there's not a lot of it, it's all moss. So I thought, what colour is there? We'll use the polarising filter just to bring through a little bit more. So we have this smaller waterfall here at the bottom right hand side on the back of the screen. Just above that there's a little bank of mossy green rocks. I want to include them because I'll throw a radial filter on and really kind of make them pop as a subject within this photograph. We've also got this big tree trunk here which I really wanted to include. And also got the waterfall you can see coming around, snaking to the smaller falls here, and then coming back this way towards the main waterfall in the bottom right hand corner. But you can see just how wet all of the rocks are in the foreground. We're really going to need to throw a polarising filter on the front of there. That's why I've left the step-up ring on there, so I can just clip the filter holder back on. So let's get everything in place and get this photograph taken. Alright, so photograph is composed and ready to go now. I've got the polarising filter on, which is really just giving a pop-off to all of the colour that's left in this scene. But the main thing that is doing is just bringing some darks back into the rocks. Obviously, as the water goes over them and the sunlight, they get quite reflective, so the polarizer cuts through that and it just brings back the natural darks in the rocks. Now, I've thrown a graduated filter on again. I didn't think this photograph would need it, but the top of the photograph, once again, is a lot brighter than the dark. So just in order to even out the exposure between the top and the bottom of the waterfall, I've thrown the grad on, and that's kind of working a bit of a treat. I'm underexposing this by 1/3 of a stop. There is a lot of white water in this photograph, and really just to control them highlights, I'm underexposing just to stop them from blowing out. And if we need to raise the shadows a little bit later on, then so be it. But I'd rather protect the highlights in the waterfall and raise the shadows a little bit later on the computer. So shooting settings wise, we're at 4 seconds, f5, ISO 200, and we're using the built-in ND64 in this OM system, OM-1. So 2 second timer, here's the photograph taken. I'll show it to you guys once it's been done. So I think now we've moved a little bit closer to the waterfall. There are 2 photographs to be taken now. I've had a little bit of walk around. Like I say, there are 2 photographs to be taken, and I think these are probably going to be the money shots of the day. So the first one that I have in mind, now we've moved a little bit further around and we've opened up the angle between the tree and the waterfall, you can kind of get them dead set on the rule of thirds line. So that's going to be the next photograph that we're going to take. And then just behind me there is a rock pool with a big old boulder in it and the waterfall coming through. I think with the polarising filter cutting through all of that, it'll make a really nice photograph. So let's get this next one set up and see what we can do with it. So I'll tell you what, this is one of the tightest shooting spaces I've ever been on. I should have probably left the backpack on the floor, but it is what it is. I'm pressed right up against these rocks once again. So this is going to look very similar to the last couple of photographs, so we've opened up the angles a little bit and we can really get that tree trunk in there on the right hand side of this frame. I'm underexposing this photograph by a stop. Again, I'm protecting the highlights in the waterfall. I can see there are some slightly underexposed shadows in there, but I don't care about them. The way I shoot is I protect highlights and raise shadows a little bit later on. Once your highlights have gone, they've gone. Shadows can always be brought back just a little tiny bit. So 8 seconds worth of exposure, f6.3, just to get a little bit more depth in this frame. And I've actually focused on the waterfall in front of me, which is roughly on the 1/3 of the way up in this photograph. So I'm hoping that's going to give us as much focus, depth of field as we possibly can. So 8 seconds, 6.3, a stop underexposed, ISO 200, using the ND64 once again, a polarising filter, and we've still got the 3-stop grad on, just bringing back whatever's left of the sky up in that top left-hand corner. So here's that photograph. Oh man, this is just such a tight shooting space down here. I've had to pretty much film the video on the 6mm lens just to get anything in. Normally when I go to the coast, it's not really a problem, but because of the setup I'm now using to shoot video and take photos of, I only actually have one micro four thirds zoom lens capable of doing this, which is the 12-40 Pro on there, so I really need a zoom lens for video, so I'll probably pick up the 14-42 kit lens in the next month. I think that'll be fine for video, but yeah, it's been a bit of a fast shooting everything on a really wide angle prime. But yeah, this is a really nice spot where I am. So there's a rock pool behind me. Just off to my left-hand side there is the big boulder that I was going to use as something of a foreground interest, just with the waterfall in the background. And again, I've still got this grad on. It's a really weird thing for me to use. I don't really use the grad, but just the fact that the sky is up there and the waterfall is really coming in from the sky, I really just thought I need to keep something under control in that area of these photographs today. But yeah, man, it's just a weird thing for me to use a grad. But man, this OM-1 with the built-in ND filters is just fantastic for the kind of photography that I really enjoy. I've really sort of thrown myself into waterfalls over this last couple of weeks, and it's just been such a good laugh. Right, let's get one more photograph taken of Scaleber Force Waterfall. Hey, before we do a 2.5 million hour, a really long drive home. I'm cold, can you tell? Oh, right then. I'm not really going to be able to show you the screen because of reflection, but we've got the big boulder in the bottom right-hand corner rule of thirds point, and we're just sneaking up to the waterfall. The waterfall is a really dominant feature in this photograph. It's probably, well, looking at it, it's most of this kind of area coming all down here. It's really pronounced in this image. There's a little bit of the greenery around the rock wall, which again the polarizer is helping just to bring out. And we've got some of the cliffs over in this side in the frame as well. So it's a really nice, I think it's a really well balanced photograph. You can see up in the sky there is a little tree line. I've got that sneaking in maybe this kind of portion of it, but I don't really know. I might crop it away. We'll see how that sort of turns out when we get home. But we're at 6 seconds, f5.6. Again, we're a stop underexposed because we are protecting the highlights in the waterfall. That photograph is taken. I'll show it to you. So I think that's me about done at Scaleber Force Waterfall today. So thank you very much for watching. And I have been using what I think is probably one of the best cameras on the market for the price point today for long exposure photography. Now, there will be people out there who are not so keen on the computational side of using the live NDs, but hey, if it works, it bloody works. And the live ND in this camera, trust me, it really does work. I've not gone home once and looked at a long exposure photograph that I've taken with this camera and thought, hey, that's stacked images. It really does work. It is phenomenal for long exposure photography. If you're in the micro four thirds game and you enjoy long exposures like I do, seriously consider one of these on the used market. They are absolute bargain for what you can do for long exposures with this camera. So thank you very much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy it, please do give it a thumbs up and a like. It does help the video and it brings new viewers to see my content. And if you liked it a little bit more than that, somewhere below me in this waterfall there is a subscribe button. You can press that and you'll see my micro four thirds nonsense every single week. And if you're a current subscriber of the channel, you do enjoy my content, there's also a join button down there, which allows you to contribute and help me make these videos at not very much cost for yourself. So if you're going to consider doing that, I would appreciate it. It's just a way of showing thanks, and they really just help go towards the cost of doing this outside landscape photography. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace and goodbye.